Over the weekend, I was up at our Paulist sort of summer retreat property in Lake George, New York. And Father Frank, who is in charge up there, I came upon him in the afternoon, and he was in the tool shed. And he had spread out all in front of him probably what looked to me like about 100 screwdrivers. And I said, "Boy, you think you got enough screwdrivers there?" And he said, "Oh, these are just the ones we're getting rid of. Let me show you here the drawer where I've organized the good screwdrivers in here." So over time, things do tend to accumulate. Maybe you have a drawer in your house or a little part of the closet that has all the tools. And over the years, when you can't find one, you buy another one. Well, look at all the Phillips heads we have here. Well, God today uses a very interesting metaphor about tools. So in the Old Testament reading, this is from Isaiah, and there are certainly parts of the many, many chapters of Isaiah that are beautiful and poetic and inspiring. This is very confusing what was going on here in Isaiah today. But towards the end, he uses this metaphor. He says, would the axe ever brag against the person who wields it? And then he mentions three other tools, a rod and a staff and an axe and there was a fourth one too. But they're all examples of tools. And the sort of almost absurd thing that God is saying is that, well, tools, they kind of get, if they have any awareness, they get that they're tools. They get that they're not the person who uses the tool. But God is somewhat subtly trying to get the message across to us that we don't always realize that we sometimes overstep and think that we're the person wielding the axe, when it seems like God is saying through Isaiah that we are tools. We can be used for a purpose, God's purpose of, let's keep the metaphor going, building up the kingdom, fertilizing, tending, being good stewards of God's creation, all things that you would use, like a hoe and a staff and an axe and all that. And yet, we'd prefer, most of us, not to be regarded, right? I mean, I think I wouldn't, not to be regarded like that big table full of old screwdrivers that were just going to be thrown out. What are you talking about, God? I'm not just some tool for you to use. I'm my own person. I've got my own rights. We've heard a lot about that lately. So what does it mean to say that God reminds us that you and I are not greater than the one who puts us to work in the world? Maybe let's look at it that way. I mean, maybe a slightly more accessible metaphor might be employers to the CEO, that sort of thing. We can relate to that. If you're new to the company, you don't take the elevator up to the top floor. Well, nobody takes the elevator to any floor right now. But you don't take the elevator up to the top floor and kick back at the CEO's desk and go, yes, buy, sell. You don't do that. But do we sometimes, in our spiritual life, kind of do that with respect to God? We brag that we're the important ones. And maybe not literally brag. We don't probably say to our friends, "Hey, look at how good I'm doing by going to daily mass." Daily mass. Okay, that was a Freudian slip. Welcome to daily mass. That's what we're all doing right now. Maybe we don't brag in that way. But maybe, if we're honest, I know if I'm honest, there are times that I, just like that reading from Isaiah, might think that I'm worth a little more than merely a tool in God's hands. And yet, think of what an artisan can do with a tool. Think of the beauty that can be created. Think of the productivity that can happen. Think of the ways that the world is made better thanks to tools. Look merely at this church that surrounds you. And those of you looking on your laptop, we'll give you a wide shot. Look at this beautiful church. This was made by using a lot of tools. You and I could be proud to be a tool in God's hand, an axe or a staff or a rod that enables God to do his work in this world. One might argue we should be proud to call ourselves that. But oftentimes we kind of bump ourselves up to the CEO and kick back at the desk and go, well, I'm kind of the God in this situation. I'm using the tools. So it seems to me from Isaiah a little call to humility today, to realize that God is doing the work of bringing about the kingdom, and we are tools in God's hand. Will we be those tools that are kept in the drawer, the useful ones, rather than ones that are kind of spread out that aren't very good? I don't know about you, but I'd like to be counted as a good tool for God today.